start the recording right now, and it will be published on the UCISA website and the DCG community forum, as there were no objections at the time of booking. Okay, so I'm just hoping. Yes, I'm recording. I've just seen what you said, John, Gareth. Okay, wonderful. So let's move on. So today's guest is John Berman, and he's going to be talking about the digital culture at Kingston. And I'm just so excited about this because John has put a lot of work into this, and he's provided case studies for us as well. And he's also provided answers to submitted questions at the time of booking. So there's about 13 of them, and you'll find those questions on the forum. I don't know whether Gareth can actually just put that link in there for me into the chat. Okay, so I'm just going to move on. All right, so before we do anything else, I'm just going to do a little icebreaker, and really it's just to try and find out some information about the topics that you would like to hear more on. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to change this screen to, here we go, if I can present my whiteboard. And I'm hoping that you can see this screen. All right, and to the right of the screen, you'll see you've got some tools. Now there's a tool there which is a tick stamp. Okay, I'd like you all to choose a tick stamp and put your tick in the square that has the topic that you would like to hear more on. So if you could all do that for me, that would be lovely. Okay, so a lot of people, ooh, what happened there? I think somebody's made it a little bit smaller. It's gone. Somebody scrolled. Okay, all right. So I wonder if I could just go back. That didn't work too well, did it? Let's have a look. Can't undo. Somebody else just deleted it. All right, so I tell you what, why don't you just put it into the chat for me? All right, so if you go into the chat and just say what topics you would like to hear more on from us, and I'm just going to change back to the presentation, and then you'll get to see all the different topics. Okay, so Office 365. Okay, that's a very hot topic there. Training approaches. Okay, I know that some people chose case studies and things like that. So this is wonderful. Okay, so did anybody attend our conference about 3 weeks ago? All right, because if you did, there were loads of recordings, and you'll find those recordings on the UCISA website under our group, under that conference, and there are lots of video recordings, and you'll find quite a few case studies there. Okay, so so we do have them available, some available. Okay, so thank you very much for that. I'm just going to move on because I'm aware of the time. All right, so I've just mentioned the conference that we had about 3 weeks ago, but there are many other group activities. We do use Twitter, we do the webinars, the 60-minute tech talks, we have a forum, which is the digital capability group community, where you can post things up, and that's where you're going to find the video for this webinar. And we also produce survey results, and that leads me on to our next guest. Okay, so we're going to speak to Gillian. Gillian, are you there? I can't hear you, Gillian, so I'm going to see if... Yeah, there
okay,
she is.
You should be able to hear me now. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so welcome, Gillian. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I think I can move the slides along now. If we no, I need to share them, don't I?
You need to take over.
Oops, yeah, bear with me. I am just trying to do that on a new laptop, which is proving a little bit challenging, but I should be able to move those now. Yes, fantastic. Okay, I'm Gillian Fielding. I'm an associate lecturer at the University of Salford. I lead the Digital Capabilities Survey project for UCISA, which is perhaps I would describe as my hobby, the thing I do in my spare time. I have another full-time job as well, but this is my passion really, is digital capabilities. We've launched the survey now for this year, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about that, and I've put a link in the chat. The second one, the ucisa.ac.uk DigCap one, you just need to look in the right-hand menu for the 2017 version, because that link also references the 2014 version as well. Just quickly, a little bit about the background. The survey complements the long-standing TEL survey, the Technology Enhanced Learning Survey, that's widely known about in the sector. But this survey it focuses on technology enhanced learning. So we felt there was a gap with the professional services staff and the business skills required for academic staff as well. So this is our second version now. The first one was in 2014, we're now on the 2017 version. And we identify developments and trends across the sector, and it enables you to benchmark yourself across other institutions as well. We've had 68 universities complete it this time. There were 63 last time, so thank you for anybody who filled it in. I know it's a big job. And this time we've come up with 36 conclusions and 22 recommendations. And here I've only got 5 to 8 minutes, so I'm only going to give you a quick flavour. It's huge. So I'm just going to pull out a few of the findings and the recommendation here to whet your appetites and hopefully encourage you to go and have a look at the rest of the findings. So I'm going to start off with the biggest hitting one, in my opinion, which is a recommendation that comes from section 5, which is that we want senior leadership within institutions to fully engage with and proactively drive the digital agenda across their institutions. Ideally by appointing an exec member with sole responsibility for this. This will address some of the barriers and factors that enable the adoption of digital capabilities across institutions. Where we see that executives have done that, we see that there has been more support. The barriers that people have are often time, funding and resources. So senior executives getting behind it mean that those can be addressed. Okay, another question, one of the questions I'm going to look at from section 4 is how widely available across an institution were the following for students. And this was, the section 4 is about accessibility. So this was asking about a range of options like an accessible VLE, lectures, notes, class presentations and handouts and recordings. And a range of other things as well. And what the results found was that the results came back and said the most accessible was the VLE, with 84% saying that it was good or widespread availability. With lecture and class presentations, 74% said there was good and widespread availability, and 32% said that recordings were accessible. Now, to be honest, we found these a little bit surprising, and we wondered whether there was a certain amount of overclaiming. And even though we'd specified the definitions, we wondered if people were clear on the definitions and they thought maybe 24/7 availability or different device accessibility, rather than we were talking about cognitive, physical and visual abilities, those sorts of things. And they wondered whether if you've got a modal accessibility block, does that mean you think that your content is accessible? Because it will not necessarily be the case. So the recommendations, or a couple of the recommendations from section 4, was that we as UCISA produce some guidance and standard phrases and questions on accessibility, which can be included in institutional tender documents for all IT systems. So that's one recommendation. Another was that institutions ensure that staff awareness reinforces the understanding that accessible resources are not just for students with specific needs, but they benefit all learners. So that's a point we really wanted to get across. So a question here from section 3, which is about delivery, implementation and practice, was which activities and processes directly encourage staff and support staff's digital capabilities. The top answer was internally provided training in digital capabilities, which I suspect a lot of people on the call are involved with. So I've got 77 people came back and said that that was a factor. 17% were working towards and 1 wasn't. Second biggest factor was IT policy and infrastructure enabling innovations such as software upgrades. And the third was the development of pedagogic practice. Now, this might also tie in with the TEF. We found in the findings that TEF had a big influence on driving digital capabilities this time. We also found that HR processes featured quite strongly. There were a lot of other things that featured as well, but too many to list here. And what we found that these often were very similar in student answers, as well as what makes a difference for students and as well as for staff. Definitions that people use across the sector, and we looked at how many people were using the GIST definition of digital capabilities, and we can see here that 38% are using it right across the sector, 40% are using it in parts of the institution, and 22% said that they weren't using it at all. And this builds on last time where we recommended that people use the GIST definition, so it enables benchmarking across the sector. That is my tiny little flavour. There's lots and lots of findings in the report. And we've also suggested, I'll flag here, we suggested this time areas for further research. And we've got 16 suggestions. So if you, your students, you know anybody who's interested in doing further research in this area, I'd be very happy to talk to them. I've already had a couple of conversations about that, and there's still a lot more that we could explore as to how we can progress this agenda. So I think I've got 1 minute left for questions. Does anybody want to ask a question? And whilst you're just thinking, or perhaps putting it in the chat, we have the training forum, we have a hashtag, and the report is the final link. Oh no, Diane's having problems viewing the slides.
Okay, what exactly is the problem? Can you not see it at all, or is it not moving? Okay, I think Gareth is going to sort that out for us. Thank you so much, Gillian. That's lovely.
Sorry, that's a whistle-stop tour.
I know. But thank you very much. You've added some more quality to this session, and I'm sure that others can contact you, or as you said, put questions in the chat or in the forum. So thank you very much, and I know you have to rush off. So.
Yes,
you'll be able to see what happens. Watch the video later on.
Yeah, all right, I look forward to it. Thanks, bye.
Thank you, bye-bye. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on now. Just take over presenting. I'm just wondering, are lots of people having problems here with the slides?
Hello, Lorraine. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you very much.
Yes, I just saw the titles like the other users, so I don't know what happened there, whether they were appearing in Gillian's view but not in the end window, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll let you know if there's a problem.
All right, lovely. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to flick through her slides. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to move on now, and we're going to speak to John Berman. He's a project manager from Kingston University, and he's going to give an overview of the digital culture project at Kingston. And he says that he's going to be focusing on digital skills rather than the actual technology. So hello, John, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and hopefully everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, so over to you.
Well, I just need to take over. Good afternoon, everybody. Anyway, my name is John Berman from Kingston University. At the beginning of my presentation, I have a a short 1 minute 30-second video. So I will start that off. Hopefully you'll be able to see it and hear it, and then I'll go into the main part of the presentation. So just bear with me while I take over. So I'm getting a message at the bottom saying some people can't see what's being presented or shared. I'm guessing that's possibly people on mobile devices.
It could be, yes, or if somebody's called up.
Yeah, so they can watch the video later.
Yes.
So let's go on to the first slide. So, video's on the next one, all right?
Yes, it is, yes.
Right, so, okay. Hopefully it's just going to start.
Hello, John. This is
Hello.
Nettie here from York St John University. It doesn't look as though your video is playing.
Oh,
So
it's just finished.
It just
That's
finished,
embarrassing.
yeah. It played all right for me.
All right. Well, I couldn't see it on my view.
A few people in the chat are saying it worked fine, it worked fine.
How
I
funny.
can only
Okay.
apologise.
No problem. If you later on, if we could have the link in the message in the chat, that'd be fine. I don't know why it's not worked on my browser. Never
Nothing
mind.
like technology, eh? I know. All right, so anyway, I'll move on. I'm glad that most people got to see it, and if you didn't, you'll be able to see it in the recording, I hope, and we'll also include a unique link to it, so you will have the opportunity. So moving on, Kingston University, what are we doing? So we're investigating a new digital culture project, and as I've written there, I'm not going to read it word for word, but we want to equip staff and students with the technology, but more importantly, we want to enhance and deliver digital skills training so we can actually really improve the productivity and the mobility across the entire university. In practical terms, great given the latest technology, but if people don't know how to exploit it, a little bit of a waste. And not just a waste for the technology, a waste for them. This is a golden opportunity for individuals to learn and get something out of it. Moving on. So how are we going to do that? Well, we will, and I'm going to explain all these bullet points in a little bit more detail. So we're going to upgrade the underlying technical platforms. We will provide high quality digital skills training using a variety of formats, and we will engage a number of digital champions. You could put in brackets actually change agents, but we've entitled them digital champions because that's what they're about. So each step in with a little bit more detail. This is probably the last slide where I will talk technical. If there are any questions, post them. I'm a little bit technical, but not overly. So the underlying platform, Mac, it'll be based on the new Sierra release. It will include Skype for Business, Office 365, and Box, which is our storage solution. And that's for all Kingston University-owned Mac devices. PC side of life, it's very similar. It'll be based on the Windows 10 platform, again with Skype for Business, Office 365, and Box for everybody. We also have a VDI platform for a desktop anywhere offering, which is currently based around the Windows 7 platform. This is in the process of being upgraded, and that will be based around the Windows 10 platform. So investing a lot of time and energy and money in the underlying technology, which will stand us in good stead and have a nice standard platform. And that's probably all I'm going to say about technology, I'm afraid. So, digital skills training, this is where it all comes together, really. We undertook some digital skills surveys earlier in the year of all staff and students and had quite a reasonable return for a survey. And we got clear messages from it. As an example, staff overwhelmingly prefer formal style training. They'd like to go into a classroom and actually go through training in a formal way. Students, not surprisingly, overwhelmingly prefer the informal option. They just want to literally be able to pop in, get some training, get some help on what they're interested in, and walk away. So those two top mediums we will provide, and we'll provide those throughout the lifetime of the project. In addition to that, we will also provide online training, which is quite key, and one-to-one training where appropriate. We obviously can't do one-to-one for everybody, but where it's required, we will do it. Now, I'm just going to look to the next slide. Yes, just making sure I get it in the right order. The online material, it'll all be theme, and actually the face-to-face material. It's all theme-based. So none of it will be about how do I create a macro in Excel, because that's online, that information. How to do something in Word, it's online. So it's all about the theme, and I've listed some of the key themes there. So how do I attend meetings with my colleagues if we're not in the same location? Okay, underlying technology is there, you can't get away from that. But the training is theme-based, which is a more attractive way to do it. As I say, we don't want to do individual applications. So you can see some of our common theme-based training there. How do I present dynamic and interactive content? How do I collaborate with others from my mobile device? And all of our material will be in Canvas, which is our VLE. So it doesn't matter whether you're a staff or a student, you go into Canvas, and one of the core modules there is called Digital Skills, and that's where everyone will go. Over time, the material that's currently based around our intranet will be migrated to Canvas. So at a point in the future, all training, IT-related training material will be in Canvas, which makes it easier to manage, central point, and nobody is unsure where to go. And that's a bit what it looks like. I just did a screenshot of what it currently looks like. So you can, I assume you can see my mouse. Everyone gets access to this digital culture logo here. Once they click on the digital culture logo, then they will see, it's a little bit smaller admittedly, but they'll see these theme-based training things. So there, where do I store my documents and work collaboratively with my colleagues, for instance. And there are a whole range of these. They're all set out in this fairly standard template, so they're easy to edit and update, not hard to maintain at all. Moving on. So, digital skill training. So, one of the questions I believe is about how we get engagement, and this actually goes a little way to explaining how we get the engagement. So for staff, we're going to link training modules for new staff who join as part of their probation. Get a new member of staff into the organisation. It's actually not unreasonable for us to provide training for them, how to use some of the core systems, or how to collaborate, how to be mobile. So we will provide that. And then for existing staff and ongoing staff, we're going to link some of the training modules that are based in Canvas to annual staff objectives, which is quite, I think it shows a clear commitment on the part, on the part of the organisation that we're serious about training, because we're going to provide it. It will be there. So that's a good thing to do. Possibly staff might think, oh, it's another thing to do. Hopefully not. But it also gives them the opportunity to learn things, because all these things are transferable. So in the event a member of staff was to leave Kingston University, the digital skills they learn here, they can use elsewhere. So it's not all about the university. Some of it is about the individual as well. For students, we are going to link our training modules to the Kingston Award Scheme for students. So these are things that Kingston Award Scheme, I'm sure you will have your own versions of. These are things that students can apply for and do outside of their academic formal timetabling, and they get points for it. Students like points, so linking training modules to Kingston Award Scheme gives them the opportunity to get points, and probably without even realising, to enhance their digital skills. And again, these are transferable. It's key that we give this. And I am seeing questions, but I'm trying to ignore them because I believe I'll be interrupted at some point to answer them. So I will focus on talking about what we're doing. So that's how we're going to encourage staff to move forward. And it will be received reasonably well by most. A lot of this is about changing staff behaviour, which, as we all know, it can be difficult because people are used to doing things in a particular way. It works, no one will dispute that. So getting people to change the way they work, it is a challenge, but one that we can meet and one we can move forward from, I believe. We're then going to make use of digital champions. So we've recruited digital champions from the staff across our directorate, and our faculties and students. And a digital champion has a number of roles. So we see them as being ambassadors really for the digital culture project within their own areas. So we look to them to promote, say good things about us. We look for them to communicate the key messages that we want to get across. We have lots of communication channels, but ultimately the best way of communicating is mouth to mouth, and it works really well. So we would look to them, or we are already looking to them to advertise training courses we may be running. And as we get further into actually the full-scale deployment of the technology, we will work with our digital champions, particularly on the staff side, to help with the scheduling aspect, because a directorate knows best when it's a good time to deploy them. And I put there, and it is true, the role is to champion the project and inspire staff and students to help them develop their digital skills, which are key both for the organisation and for the individuals when they move on. You can't go anywhere without having some level of digital skills. You need them wherever you go. And I put at the bottom again, technical. I do keep away from technical. It's not a technical role, and we've got a really good gender balance here. I think perhaps in the past, when we would have advertised these roles as technical, it would have been seen a little bit like sort of a techie thing for the boys. Not a case here at all. We have an excellent gender balance, and it's open to all, and we do actually encourage females to actually apply for these roles, because this is about training, influencing and encouraging, not about techie stuff, which, whilst it does support it, will just work. And the last thing I put there at the bottom is staff, when we advertise for this, through the directorates, through the formal channels, we did clearly ask for volunteers, not for people to be volunteered. And I have contacted all the volunteers from the staff and asked them, and they are all volunteers. They all want to do it. So I think, again, that's a real plus. Excuse me. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. It's easy to get carried away when you're almost talking to yourself, if you know what I mean. Right, moving on. So
you're doing well, John. You're doing well.
Thank you very much. So here's just a bit of a thing why we should use online meetings, for instance. So we're multi-site, as I'm sure many of you are, and here. So on average, one member of staff spends 12 hours walking between sites for meetings. I'm not going to read it down and down and down, but so 140, based on 100 staff, that's 142 marathons we do. You could argue that's good, we're all extremely fit, but it is 1,200 hours of non-productive time, and the 100 is a very conservative estimate. So we spend a lot of time walking between sites. We invest some time and energy in showing people how to collaborate across sites using the tools provided, and things could be a lot better for staff all round. Nobody likes walking between sites in the winter. It's not a pleasant thing to do. But it's an example of where providing the training, providing the technology can actually make someone's life easier, I believe. And I do truly believe it will make people's lives easier, no doubt about it. And part of our project, we do already practice what we preach. So traditional project boards now move to Skype-based project boards. We don't need to be in the same place. we did the first time to meet, and that's fine. Post that, we can just move on. And this is slide 26. I can't remember what slide 27, 28 and 29 are. I don't know if Lorraine can. Maybe I'll just press the button and see what's next. So I thought I'd just about finished.
Yeah, they're most likely my slides,
Are they?
John. Yes.
Should I not press the button?
Go
I'll
ahead.
press it and then go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all arranged. I do apologise. I should have written down how many slides. So that's an overview of what we're looking at doing.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I'm coming in now. It's Nettie, or also known as Annette. So I've just been looking at some of the questions in the chat. There's quite a few coming through. So mainly, one of the first questions was from Susan. She realised that the face-to-face training was much preferred by your staff when you surveyed them. So was there a difference between support services and academic staff and what their preference was? Or did they all just want to have the formal?
Overall, all staff, including academic staff, prefer the more formal, traditional style of training. Now, possibly, I'm only suggesting, because we didn't ask ages on the survey, maybe it's an age-related thing. I don't know.
Interesting. I think, yeah. Well, I've done a bit of research on this, and I think you can't beat human interaction with technology, but that's a bit of one of my things, to be honest. But anyway, here we are. We are humans. We are interacting.
Yeah,
so
staff could have opted for the more informal, drop in, get help,
Yeah,
and,
right.
but they didn't. They prefer the traditional. And I do wonder if that's perhaps an age bracket thing.
more
I
structured.
don't know.
Yeah, interesting. So, how many training staff have you got? You say you've got
Not many.
100. Say that again.
Not many. So we have during the life cycle of the project, which completes in July 2018. We have a training manager who's defined, who created the strategy, created the skills survey to get us to the point where we know what we need to deliver. We're actually using our digital champion students once they're trained to deliver the training, and we've got about 22, 23 of those at the minute.
Wow.
And we think it's obviously academic studies, but we get a number of hours per week with the student, and we think it's excellent that the students gives them a skill that they can train, and a skill that they can move on with. It's also good for them to train staff and their peers as well, and it's well received so far.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So I'm just working through the questions. So Sandy asked, how did you decide on who gets what type of training? So did they just opt into, like the face-to-face? Did the staff?
We did the survey.
Right.
And the survey gave us a clear indication of what people would prefer. So initially, in our early stages, so last month, in the month of May and the month of June, we run 2 or 3 classroom-based training sessions per week across the campuses, just to see what uptake is like. And despite the fact that students have a lot of drop-in, the students who are around, there's still quite a few around, are turning up for those. So it's choice. What we do is we're already providing fixed classroom-based training on a number of topics, mostly around what's new in Windows 10, what's new in Office 365, something about creating collaborative presentations and so on. And as we move further forward, we will then start to have more informal drop-in training available, and we will advertise that as well.
Right.
It's coming up to summer, so whilst there are still a lot of people around, as you probably appreciate, a lot of academics are now about to go off on holiday. Not all the students, but a lot of the students disappear. So we will be gearing up over the next couple of months for really September, when we're very busy again, to provide formal training in the classroom and informal.
Right. And you mentioned the 22 digital champions. Do you actually pay them for their services? You do?
The students. So how do we incentivise them? We pay them. But
yeah.
Yes, they get paid for it. But you can tell very quickly whether somebody's just there to get the money, whether they're actually interested in what they're doing.
For their experience as well.
And I'm not being naive. Some of them are really enjoying it.
Yeah, oh, that's good.
And actually, the ones that don't, they drop off. They don't turn up.
Yeah, even if they're getting paid, yeah.
If they're getting paid, they don't bother after a week.
Interesting, yeah. So did you do, Alistair's asked, did you do the training before or after rolling out the technology?
Yeah, we haven't actually rolled out the technology yet. We're about to start.
Okay.
We've done some early adopters. We've got some machines around with students and with staff, so they can have a look at it. In many ways, the technology, they're on Windows 7 really at the minute, and they've got Link, they've got all the other tools, they've got Office 365, although some of them don't realise it or they've got access to it. So in many ways, the technology is not that new to them.
Okay.
Actually. It might look a bit different with the Windows menu system. They might have to be helped a little bit initially, as in, oh, where do I find something? But actually, in many ways, the technology is not that different. We're consolidating it and making it standard. The big thing is exploitation of the technology, which is why I don't talk much about the techie stuff. And the technical people would hate me because I just say, well, that's actually quite easy. You just know it's going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting people to exploit it, that's the challenge.
Okay. So, how do you ensure, I'm switching between these questions because we're still talking about the digital champions really. How do you ensure that the digital champion students have the necessary training skills? So do you provide training for them, like train the trainer?
I suppose it's training for the trainers, yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then training for the trainers, then we let them loose, for want of a better phrase, and we're with them and help them. And then once we feel confident, we just let them go.
Right.
And actually, they pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah. And can you give me some examples of the sort of sessions that are being delivered?
So
are they on the themes?
We're delivering sessions on what's new in Windows 10, and that's what's new from a Kingston University perspective.
Yeah.
So the new menu system where you're going to find stuff. The nice little features about virtual screens. So what's new in Windows 10? What's new in Office 365? Sorry, Office 365. A lot of staff and students don't realise as part of the license agreement they can use Office 365. Some do, some don't. So a bit about Office 365 and the key components. A little bit about one called, I can't remember its exact name, presentations. And actually that's really an introduction to Sway, which is another presentation tool.
Yeah.
We do something on forms, which has been really successful, which I'll come back to in a minute. And we do quite a large piece about Box, which is our storage solution. We don't use OneDrive, we use a solution called Box. Very similar, and we talk a lot about that. And all those training courses are well subscribed. People seem to enjoy them. And the most successful one, possibly, Forms, Microsoft Forms.
Really?
Probably like a lot of the people listening, surveys all the time. And a lot of people here use SurveyMonkey, for instance. Forms are accessible to anybody in the organisation, and you don't need SurveyMonkey anymore. You can do it yourself. It's dynamic, it's creative. And a case study which we will publish in a week or two is where a particular department, I won't mention them, they would send out a Word document to several hundred people asking about an event they're going to turn up to. They get the replies, transcribe all that onto a spreadsheet, so you can imagine the workload.
Yeah.
Show them how to do forms. They sent it out in one mail shot, and the results are dynamic.
Okay. So, why? A couple of questions here is why have you preferred to use Box as your cloud drive in favour of OneDrive?
That's a very good question to which I can't give you a complete answer at this stage, but I will answer it in the questions, purely because it was here before I arrived.
Clearly, because what? Say that again.
Box is here before I arrived.
Oh, right.
So I will answer.
So it's been inherited.
Yes, but it'll have to be in the questions.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. How do staff feel about being trained by students?
Actually, once the staff that are into training like it. I think it's funny, isn't it? I think they probably, careful how I say this in case there's any trainers listening, I think they probably feel that the students are potentially a little bit more dynamic, dare I say.
Right, okay, interesting. They've obviously not been trained by me then.
We've not had all benefits. I think training can be, I mean, some of these subjects, if the training is not done correctly, and I'm sure you're not like this, they can be a bit dry, can't they?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And students, providing they get the content across, we're pretty relaxed about how they deliver it.
Yeah.
They've got pretty much a free hand. If we want to be creative in delivering it, providing the key messages get across, that's what's important to us.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so going back to the forms that you mentioned,
the answer is yes, it does do branching. I saw the question.
Yeah, does it do branching?
It does branching. It's actually very good. It does branching. It does all the traditional things that SurveyMonkey will do. It'll work on any platform, any mobile device. You can share the link with people inside or outside the organisation. It's got a lot of features, and I assume that Microsoft will develop it over time. The key thing is the results are dynamic, instantly back in graphic form, which you can then export to a spreadsheet.
Right, okay.
It is actually a really good tool. I'm determined to make sure nobody in this organisation uses anything but forms, because there's no need to.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to look into that a bit further. So Chris Parry's asked, are you training how to continually adopt new technology or training on how to use the technology? Now, you mentioned the themes earlier on in the presentation. So it was more like task-based, is it? Or is it...
It is. Is it task-based? It's a fair comment. I mean, we take Skype for Business, which is the underlying technology. We want to encourage people to move around less from site to site, because it's just impractical and they waste a lot of time doing it. Therefore start to use more collaborative ways of talking. So, for instance, Skype conferencing. Don't necessarily need to use every aspect of it, but to start doing Skype conferencing. So that's an introduction. But what we would like then to do is and it is difficult, is encourage staff to perhaps think a little bit more, right, how could I now use this? Now I know the basics. How can I take it to the next level? So, for instance, Skype conferencing is a great tool. They can start to bring third parties in. So some staff are very competent and they know what they're doing. Some staff, it's not that they're not confident, they've never been shown. So they see the technology and get a bit worried, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be second nature to them. So we will show them and we will encourage them, and we will give them all the information and help they need, and it will evolve over time. It won't happen overnight. I'd be naive if I said it would, but it will evolve over time.
Okay. You might notice that the slides are moving. I'm hoping somebody is bringing up a slide that Sarah has asked for.
I haven't touched anything.
No, I think it's one of the other presenters.
Okay.
Sorry, it was me.
I'm
just wondering whether, Sarah, is this a slide that you wanted?
Oh, no, she says.
When to stop.
So it's how to...
Website. Right. Oh, that one.
This one? Yeah, okay.
Brilliant, okay. I'm just seeing if there's anything that I've missed out.
Someone mentioned KPIs, I think.
Yes. Yes, can you elaborate on KPIs?
Yeah, so one thing we're doing for KPIs, which is our initial way of measuring it, is, I'll use simple examples just because I can. So, for instance, sway training and form training. So we give sway training, imagine in the month of May, we give sway training to 100 people. Using the Office 365 adoption reporting tools, you can see the uptake of sway usage. So you would expect reasonably that if the more sway training you give, if people are interested, obviously, you would expect an increase in the adoption of sway. Box, our storage solution, you would expect the more box training you give to see an increase in usage of box. So we'll track it like that over time initially.
Right.
Because it's a practical way to track it. You might then see that actually you get an initial surge of sway usage or forms usage, and then it drops off, in which case you'll question, is it not doing the job for us, or is the training not very good? But that's the way we will start. And then probably log that against, for instance, the number of people in a department and the number of people that have attended training as well.
Okay, thank you. Sharon's asked, did you use any form of consultancy resource to support the project?
What, from the training perspective?
I think so. She's saying, for example, architecture, design, development, testing, implementation.
So we have the techie bit, of which we have our normal technical resources, and we've supplemented those with some individuals for the additional workload for the Windows 10 platform and Mac and so on and so forth, if that's what you meant. On the
Yeah.
digital skills side, really, we employed a very good trainer who's very knowledgeable in thinking a little bit out of the box, been a bit of a level above a hands-on trainer, but someone who's worked within the training environment for a number of years. But I'm not sure that really answered your question. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Sharon, if you could elaborate on that, please,
I'll do
in
my
the
best.
messenger. Okay. So I think that's mainly most of the questions covered. I mean,
Could I just
you've said,
ask you, Nettie,
yeah.
did you cover how have you mapped your staff digital capabilities?
Oh no, that's a good one actually, because that's a big thing in our area anyway. But yes.
Yeah, and also just one more. How do you link training modules to annual staff objectives?
Right. Okay. They sound good. Okay. So John, if you're still there, you've disappeared from my screen.
Have I? I'm still here. So you can answer the questions you just heard in the background.
I can still hear you. There you go. You pop back up. So, how do you map the things, the skills that you train on to the digital capabilities framework, if at all?
I suppose, if I'm honest, loosely. Part of our digital skills survey, which was quite comprehensive, asked a lot of questions around device usage at home or at work. What do you use your device for at home, for instance, internet, shopping, banking? Do you do work at home as well? We asked about, in addition to how you like to be trained, what types of things would you feel that you would need to be trained upon? So do you need training on how to use the internet? Would you need training on how to use Excel? So all those sorts of questions, really, which gave us a general sort of, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It gave us a general baseline of staff and student digital skill levels. And obviously it's an average because everyone's different. But if you were scoring, and I can't remember what the skill levels are, but if you're scoring out of 10, with 10 being the top of the tree, so to speak, and 1, you would look at our staff and say that we were probably, I don't know, listening to this, you would probably say overall they're probably a bit sort of a 4 to a 5.
Right.
And you can look at the areas then through the survey, look at the areas where they're perhaps weaker, and those are the areas that you can then focus on, and then you can compare with students. And as you can probably imagine, there is a marked difference between student skills and staff skills. Students excel in the internet and anything outside of the organisation. Staff excel internally, but not so well externally. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it does. Yes.
Because staff come to work every day, they use the system, don't know how to use it, and they don't exploit it as much as they could.
Well, I think in my experience, a lot of staff have inherited Excel spreadsheets,
Yeah.
so they know how to, input data and so on, but they might not necessarily have the deeper knowledge about creating from scratch.
Yes, and a lot of staff actually, are competent at work. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They struggle a bit when they go home with the machine. Not sure if they could perhaps trust a site, for instance. Should I put my details in there? And these are all things that we all need to know, and we need to sort of spread the word and tell people.
Yeah.
No shame in not knowing, is there?
No, exactly. Well, true, and I'd be interested to see a copy of your survey that you originally sent out.
We can share. The survey is anonymised, so it has no names in it. So
yeah.
I see no reason why I can't share it.
Yeah, I think more the question types. It's just sort of getting that,
Yes.
Without having a massive list of questions about tasks within Excel. How did you find out exactly what they wanted to know from it?
I think there are about 40 questions actually.
Right. Okay.
It's quite a big comprehensive survey, and off the top of my head, the staff. So we've got about 2,500 staff, something like that, and it's I can't remember. At the end, I think it's 16 or 17% return, which I think for a survey is quite good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you could share that with us, that'd be fantastic. Just
I will check
the questions.
First to make sure no one has any objections, and then assuming they don't, then yes,
just the questions really, not the results. But yeah, that'd be useful.
I can share the questions, not a problem.
Yeah, brilliant. So does does Canvas integrate with Office 365?
I should know, shouldn't I?
Maybe,
I have
yeah.
absolutely no idea. Depends what you mean by does it integrate? If you click on an email link within Canvas, it's going to open up the client, which, depending upon what you've got your preferences are, will open up the appropriate client. I'm not sure what you mean by integrate.
No, that was a question from Sarah. So Sarah could maybe. Well, Bryony has answered yes, it does. So that's you. Is Bryony from your institution, John? Or Bryony knows anyway.
I have no idea. But it does.
Okay.
Of course it does.
Now, linking to staff objectives, we call them PDRs at York St John.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier about having training as part of a staff member's probation or
Yes.
when they first join. What about the yearly objectives? Do you use that at all?
We are working with our HR colleagues to incorporate that. So, for instance, one of my yearly objectives could be to attend the course entitled, I'm just looking at the screen, How do I attend meetings with my colleagues if we're not in the same location?
Yes.
My line manager might contribute. I'm going to do that course. I don't know if you're familiar with Canvas, but it will record that I've gone in and done that course and completed it.
Right.
And it's not onerous. It helps everybody, and it's a good thing to do.
Right.
And I do believe the fact that you're putting into annual objectives demonstrates that the organisation is serious about supporting digital skills.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't bother.
Well, yeah, true. That's proving that sort of management are on board and wanting to, encourage staff to improve their skills. I mean, there's always room for improvement, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know staff are busy and they've got lots of other things to do, and this is one of many things that gets put upon them. But if they improve their digital skills without even realising it, they will make their own actual jobs a little bit easier.
Yeah. And that's interesting without realising it, because I'm a great believer of bringing digital skills into every day. It's,
Yeah.
No one wants to go to a session and say, oh, right, we're going to do digital stuff today. I think, it needs to be more practical than that. And,
that's why our training, we're trying to make it theme-based and not talk techie.
Definitely.
Because it just doesn't work. Talk techie for training, it turns people off.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've covered most of the questions, unless Lorraine can see anything that I've missed out on. So if we move on to back to Lorraine.
Julian's question?
Very much, Nettie. Yeah. Sorry, John, what were you saying?
Can I just ask Julian Dobson's question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because it is relevant. HR, I have no appetite to before. I hope there's no HR people listening. We've got an HR person to be on our project board, and we didn't let him out of the room until he agreed to, as part of the project scope, that we would get it included. So it was a bit forceful, possibly, but it seemed to have worked. I hope that helps, Julian. I think sometimes you do just have to say this needs to be done.
Oh, thank you so much, John. That's just a wonderful experience that you're sharing with everyone. And, there are more questions that have been asked, and they're actually on the forum. There were about 13, and this is one of them. You've got Eileen Kennedy, who's a Learning Technology Projects Officer from UCL, and she said that she was interested in the use of MS Teams. And are you using it? Are you planning on using it? And how? And I know that what you've done for us is that you've included a case study in this online chat room, or this online room at the moment. So if anybody wants to download the case study that John has, we've got it attached to this meeting room. You've got the you've got the presentation button. If you click on that, and then you'll see it says manage attachments. There's only one, and then what you'll be able to do is to download it. Okay, so please feel free to do that. And I can see that Gareth has actually put in the chat the link for where the other questions are. Okay, so you've got that to have a look at as well. Yep. Oh, and he's got a link for the case study, which is fantastic. Okay, so this has been really good. Has anybody got any more questions? We've got 5 more minutes. And so I don't know whether we missed anything out in the chat previously, because I think there's loads of questions being asked right at the beginning. Nettie, have you gone through and found anything else that maybe you haven't mentioned?
I'm just working my way through. I think we just about covered most of it. I think Sharon's question about did you use any form of consultancy contract resource? She did admit it was a techie question. So I don't know whether that might be better for her to speak to John via email.
Yeah, drop me a line. I mean, if anyone's got a burning question, drop me a line, or I'm sure Lorraine will show me how to answer the questions that are on the forum.
Yeah, brilliant.
Actually, put the answers there anyway, but if there are more questions that you want to add, then we can do that. There was one thing I can remember having a chat with you, John, before inviting you to come and share your experience, and you talked about the Microsoft classroom, some classroom. Can you just do you remember?
Yeah, so I assume it applies to us all. If you've got working with your account manager, we organised to set up some Microsoft showcase classroom events for our digital champions. So effectively, we've taken all our digital champions, well actually split them into 2 halves, took them off to Microsoft in Waterloo for the day, and they got dedicated training on the Microsoft Office products that we use in our organisation. And for our champions, that was really, really useful thing to do, because it actually showed them. And you sit down there, and they've got a nice big Surface Hub. They throw out lots of techie devices and let the students, the digital champions, which are students and staff, have a look at them. But they learn the key products from the set, and then they encourage the staff and the students in this instance to sign up to the Microsoft Educator community. Just me. That's really weird. That's a trend. Look, if the thing, I was hearing music. I thought music. What was music? What happened?
I have no idea. I don't know where that music came from.
Anyway, so Microsoft Educator. Maybe staff won't be quite as interested in it, but it is a good thing to do. You can learn a lot. Students love it because it's global. Once you're a member and you get your badges and your points, you can take them anywhere in the world. I really would push that. It's a good thing to do. And you can learn a lot.
How would they go about if they were interested in doing that? Who would they contact? Would they just contact their Microsoft account?
Yes, contact your Microsoft account manager for the showcase classroom. And if you haven't got the time or whatever, you can still just Google Microsoft Educator. You can sign up with your Office 365 account.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, now thank you so much, John. This has been lovely. Really have appreciated you taking the time out to do this. And as I say, the recording of this webinar or this 60-minute tech talk will be on the forum, but we are also we're always looking, should I say, for people to volunteer. And so if any of you out there have any experiences that you would like to share with the rest of the community, then please just contact me, lbarclay@sgul.ac.uk. It doesn't have to be this year. It could be a joint presentation with another institution if you want. Just let me know, because we need to keep this community alive, and it's the only way to do that is to share our experiences and best practices. And I'm just going to quickly go back to the slide before and just say that after this webinar, what will happen is UCISA, they will actually send out an email with a link to feedback for this webinar. So if you could actually fill that in for us, that would be really nice. So we'd like to say thank you very much for coming, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again, or being with you again at the next 60-minute tech talk. Thank you very much, Gareth and Nettie too, and also Gillian if you're listening again. Thank you very much. Okay, goodbye everyone.
Okay, bye.